cut. Welcome to the top cut. Welcome to the top cut. Welcome to the top cut. Top cut. Welcome to the top cut. Welcome to the top cut. Welcome to the top cut.
Hello, everybody, and welcome into today's episode of the Top Cut Yu-Gi-Oh! Podcast. My name is Sunny. I'm here with my co-host, Giant Skyhawk.
Hello, I'm Giant Skyhawk.
Indeed you are, my friend. Indeed you are. So, of course, we have a huge episode to get into today. Of course, we're going to start off with today's ban list. And, of course, after that, we're going to get into the results of YCS Philly. And it's going to be a wonderful time. Now, before we do that, though, we're going to go ahead and thank all of our wonderful sponsors. So, of course, a huge thank you to Steelfox Games and ETB Games. Those are the two locals in my area. They support me greatly to help you, bring you this podcast and help, keep me playing competitively and help me with the cards that I need and things of that sort. So if you are interested in checking them out, be sure to check those out in the description down below. We have links to their respective pages. And of course, also, we want to thank Gem Accessories for always sponsoring the podcast. And if you're interested, please be sure to check out our Dragon Shield affiliate link down below. If you're going to buy some Dragon Shield products, if you can just go ahead, click on that link, and before you shop, supports the podcast. No extra cost to you. So with that said, let's go ahead and talk about some Banlist.
This is going to be a big episode, y'all. There's a lot to talk about. It is such, sure. I will say, just off the top, off the top, I'm not a huge fan of this list, but
it's a terrible list. I hate this list.
This is a very unique list, I will say, that we haven't seen a lot of stuff. We haven't seen a lot of stuff like this happen. So there's a philosophy conversation to be had, but I guess we can start off the top. What are your thoughts about Cyberstein?
I'm fine with this. Actually, I'm actually very pleasantly surprised to see this card get hit. I think Cyberstein was one of those cards that they want to peel cards like that off of the list because on the surface they don't seem that crazy, but Cyberstein always seems to enable some kind of an FTK. Back in the day, you could even say that Cyberstein was always crazy just because of what it enabled you to do, whether you were cheating out a Cyber Twin Dragon or Blue Eyes Ultimate or whatever. Cyberstein has always had it. It's always been an issue. So it's not entirely surprising that now it is as much of an issue as ever. So
yeah, it's interesting because I actually think a lot of the super heavy lists aren't really doing it. But I like that it's gone. Like Exterio is just such a nonsense card. Last Warrior is just such a nonsense card. I will say, little known bit, RIP to the Springans players. Cyberstein, like off Gear Gig and X, was basically one of the main things that they could do to combo. So rest in peace, Tally Ho. But I'm happy to see this card gone. It enables nothing but nonsense, and it shouldn't be legal anymore. All right, so next up we have, I know you're going to have some thoughts on this one, Super Heavy Samurai Scarecrow banned. I guess I'll go for, actually no, I will let you go first, Sunny, because I know that you probably have better context into this than I would. He's shaking his head.
I had almost learned the combo line. I was this close. And now that's just all gone to where, it's just gone. Now I've got to relearn different combo lines. Okay, so here's the thing. In a world where Kashtira gets adequately addressed on the ban list, and in a world where Kashtira actually has, a reasonable amount of damage done to it, then super heavy with no hits is the best deck. Cyberstein is a super heavy hit, more or less, sure, but this is an actual hit to the engine of the deck. It's not just killing some weird niche FTK version. This is actually which, by the way, if they're going to kill weird niche FTKs, it's crazy that Cyberstein got banned and Morphtronic and Telephon didn't, but whatever. I think, though, that here's the thing about Scarecrow. Scarecrow is the reason that Super Heavy Samurai could be a one-card combo deck. Without Scarecrow, it is not a one-card combo deck. At least not as consistently as it could have been. I guess technically Wakaushi is still a one-card combo, but I don't know about you, but I wouldn't necessarily want to put all of my hopes on a single Wakaushi with the amount of hand traps that at least were being played. I don't know if we're still in a hand trap heavy format. I saw some opinions online that we aren't. I don't know if that's true or not. I'm not the kind of player that can just look at a ban list and go, oh yeah, no, this is not a hand trap heavy format anymore. That just doesn't even make sense to me.
Mhm.
So, I don't know. Scarecrow is, if they want to bring down the power ceiling of super heavy, then hitting Scarecrow is a good hit and it's an adequate hit. But it's crazy to me that the deck has been a real deck for all of 2.5, 3 weeks, and we're already essentially punching it in the mouth, right? Like this is not. I wouldn't say that this is a slap on the wrist, but it's also not taking it out back, right? It's like you punched it in the mouth, and it can still be a deck, it can still play, but it hurts.
Yep. So this is the weird thing, is that I think this is actually a brilliant hit 3 months from now. Right?
Exactly.
Exactly. I actually think if we're talking about a way to hit super heavy without killing the deck, I think this is perfect. Like that's part of. Sure. I think some people were saying like, why do you think this? I think the forbidden section is nearly perfect, and it's because I think this is a great hit. The idea behind this hit is to make the deck less one card combo heavy. Part of the reason that super heavy is problematic is because of the amount of non-engine it can play for the recovery that it has.
Yeah, absolutely.
Hitting Scarecrow means you can still do all your lines, but you don't get the. You have to play more engine, right? You have to adjust your lists. I will say there are still a lot of one card combos. There are people. Staples Games on YouTube posted a great video. Here are the combo lines you can still do. Aiko Yakumo, excellent streamer that does super chill streams on YouTube whenever they're active. Go check them out. Also has another great video explaining what you can still do with super heavy. You can still have a lot of lines that do like the Baron, Apollosa Regulus stuff, but you don't have a lot of a higher ceiling, and interruptions matter a lot more. So I don't know. I like the hit personally because I think super heavy is very overtuned, but in context to everything else that happened on the list, and the fact that the deck has only been at full power for 3 weeks, is such a like. This basically never happens. Like the last time a hit this early happened to a deck was like the Pepe emergency list.
No, that's not it. I can tell you when a deck got a wave of support that pushed it over the top, made it one of the best decks, and then a Banlist came out and hit an old card for the strategy to essentially nullify the new cards that it got before it could establish itself as one of the best decks. I can tell you exactly when that was.
I must be missing something. As soon as I hear it, I know I'm going to be like...
It was when Misk went to 1. I'm not joking or saying that for your sake. I'm not. I think that at that time, that Dinosaur with 3 Misk right after Scrapper After came out was maybe the best or second best deck in the format. And I really, I'm not, like I said, I know you're like the Dino guy, but I'm not just saying that to tickle your fancy. I really think that it was one of the best.
Certainly possible. But even then, so let's, even if we take that and we say that that's true, right? It's still been like 2 years since something like this has happened.
Yeah.
And frankly, I think this was like even sooner after, like, at least the timeline is pretty close at least, but I don't know. I feel like this. Okay, in an ideal world, right? We get a list at the beginning of May. We get like 2 months with the super heavy deck, and then they do this. But to do it like 3 weeks after release is ridiculous, personally.
The issue is that they couldn't really give us a list at the beginning of May, because that was before Syac came out, right? So you want to see what the new set is going to do in the format before actually making decisions and justifications based off of a format that you haven't seen, right? Imagine us getting a ban list right before Pote came out, nerfing all those decks, and then Pote comes out, and it's like, oh, well, now all of those decks are totally unplayable. So, like, guess what? Last year, we got Pote at the beginning of August, and then Sprite tier limit release and just completely changes the format. So everybody's calling for a ban list in early September, and it's like those new decks just got started playing and they were already dominating the metagame. You want a ban list just because you haven't had one in a while. What are they going to do on a ban list? That's why the ban list waited until October that last year. Like, I get it. They want to let the new decks play a little bit. And guess what? In that October ban list, Ronin Tonin got banned. Like, they were already addressing those new decks. So if you wait a little bit longer to let the format progress after a new set releases, then a lot of times you can actually get a more well-adjusted ban list. I think that October 1st ban list, before Magnificent Mavens released, when Konami actually had time to let the format develop a little bit and really then cater the format, honestly, I think that was a really great format. Post-Dabble, pre-Mama, that was a really cool format.
I'm with you there. I think it's interesting philosophically because my view of that is that at like the expected ban list time, I would love if there were like more frequent updates that got rid of nonsense cards. Like if the ban list update was literally just we are banning Dimensional Barrier, nobody would have been upset with that. Like I think I would love if
No, I would have been upset if that was the only thing.
The only thing, but like use the list to do that stuff. If you decide we want the rest of the format to do other things, right? Would be my position on it. But anyway, I thought that was the goal behind flexibility. You can tell that like this, the fact that we've spent probably 10 minutes talking about this one change should tell you enough about how like strange and weird and off it is. But anyway. The next one will be a lot faster. Number 89, Diablosis the Mind Hacker. Goodbye.
Rest in piss, idiot.
Good riddance if they didn't do this. This is great. The Kashtira setups now no longer get to do the high roll zone lock thing, so it's easier to prepare for. Nobody should be upset about this. I think it was necessary.
Not only do we now have 5.5 number monsters in the Exceed section,
Yep.
we also now have, this is 2 prize cards limited on the same list, or banned on the same list. Now, if there's other prize cards on this list, I don't think, I don't know that there are any other prize cards on this list. I know. I mean, I'm not talking about on this particular ban list. I'm talking about on the ban list.
Yeah, just
overall.
on the ban list.
I don't think there's any other prize cards that are banned, but to get multiple, I think they were trying to move away from banning prize cards, but to get multiple in the same ban list is kind of crazy.
Oh, that's what happens when you make them playable, right? Like at some point,
it always happens,
some of them might be too good. Like I can't wait until Divorce Shack gets banned. Anyway.
Dude, that card actually is kind of nuts.
So this one also quite short. A pointer.
No, I'm thinking Giant Hand.
Giant Hand. Yeah. Minerva. Minerva probably is the strongest legal one now. Yeah.
No, it's not.
Minerva's pretty good. We got Mills.
Yeah, Minerva is definitely good. I don't think it's the strongest prize card that's legal right now, though. I think that is probably, in my opinion, still the spell card. Gold Sark.
Oh, actually, I forgot about that. Shrink actually is my answer.
I mean, you're joking. Gold Sark is crazy.
Yeah, Gold Sark is nuts. This next one also pretty quick. A pointer of the Red Lotus. It should have been banned instead of limited. I'm glad that they banned it. I would love to see more Saki one of cards banned. It's like if Dust Shoot is banned, you have to ban this card.
Yeah, I agree.
And people were starting to do like thrust into this card. We just can't do that.
It's crazy to me because when I look at the list of banned trap cards, it's like all of these trap cards make a lot of sense to me, except for 2.
Let's hear it.
And you could even say 3, but really 2 of these are very. Okay, I would say makes sense. All but 1 makes sense here, but there's like 2 or 3 that are extremely different from the rest. Like last turn, like when you look at this ban list, you see a Pointer of the Red Lotus. Okay, extremely powerful hand knowledge card, just like Trap Dust Shoot. Those like go together. They make sense. Vanity's Emptiness, Royal Oppression, Imperial Order. Some of the strongest floodgates ever. that are banned for a reason, right? Last turn's weird, but understandable.
It's banned for ruling problems more than anything, honestly.
So it's self-destruct button.
Yeah. Self-destruct button is
So-
banned for like tournament policy reasons. It's
Right.
like-
Yeah. So last turn and self-destruct button are essentially tournament policy bannings. 6 cents in return from different dimension are two of the craziest combo enablers of all time.
Mhm.
Why is Red Reboot banned? This is stupid. Give me Red Reboot back.
No. We're
Yes.
not doing
yes.
this take.
It's-
We're not
all
doing
it is trap stun from
No,
your hand. That's all it is.
no. I would much prefer if we got a card like Blizzard, rather than Reboot. Reboot, I think having counterplay to counter traps would be really nice. I think Reboot saying you can't activate traps for the rest of the turn sucks. It's just unfair, like on its face.
It's not even about counterplay to counter traps. It's about counterplay to Dimensional Barrier, Eradicator, Epidemic Virus, Harpy's Feather Storm.
That's kind of why I want. I would. So now, in an ideal world, I would prefer if those cards just got banned because they're not fair. There's like the only counterplay we have to them now is Crossout. I think if there was a card like a Blizzard, I don't know if you know what Blizzard does.
I know the card. I can picture the card. It's like a super rare out of
It's basically like
earlier
a quick play spell. You could chain it to target a spell card your opponent controls, bounce it to their hand. They can't activate it for the rest of the cards with that name for the rest of this turn. I think something like that for trap cards would be a much fairer way to counterplay them than Reboot. Again, I would prefer stuff like Featherstorm and Deep Area to be banned. They're just not fun. They create non-games. But Reboot is not the answer to that problem, right? It is satisfying to do Reboot because it's like we're dead one with trap decks, but I would rather a better balancing decision. Speaking of balancing decisions, Branded Expulsion also kind of looks a bit weird on the list because it doesn't do anything that the other deck cards really do, although it's basically Vanity's Emptiness.
Yeah, in essence. I mean, when you're either summoning Nightmare Corruptor Ibli or Gimmick Puppet Nightmare or that other card like
Ra's Disciple, Edo. Oh, you mean Edo?
Edo, yeah.
The supreme magical being or whatever.
Yeah. The one from like 20 years ago.
Yeah. There's a laundry list of cards. I will say it's
a stupid combo enabler that should be banned.
Yeah, it's really good that they banned this. It kind of sucks because Sanctifier Dragon is a thing now. It does essentially the same thing. At least it takes more setup, and it's easier to interact with the monster than it is to interact with a normal trap card, which I guess comes back to your point about Reboot, but you know.
Yeah.
I'm very glad that they banned this. It means that the setups for Gimmick Puppet are harder, and Branded has to think a lot harder about whether they actually want to invest into that setup. And it also means that, I guess Super Heavy can still do it, but with no Scarecrow, they might just not bother. They probably won't do it because they can't Cyberstein into it anymore. Because Cyberstein into Sanctifier is one of the main ways they were doing it with.
Okay, I didn't know the pathway that they were doing it with.
You can probably, there's probably a way to Muddy Mud Dragon into it, but that setup is probably way worse. Yeah. So that's it for the bans. I actually really like this section. I think
I almost like it. I like 80% of it.
Yeah, that's fair. Scarecrow is kind of wild. I personally like that ban. I just wanted it to happen later.
I think limiting the card would have been inadequate.
Because that makes it less repeatable. I don't know. But the other bans are basically perfect. It's like these are nonsense cards that should not be legal, and we are getting rid of them. I love that.
Yeah.
All right.
On to the limits. So I'm going to walk through the limits and let you give your opinion on these first.
All right. That's a good way to do it. We alternate.
First, we have a card that was forbidden and is now limited. Blaster Dragon Ruler of Infernos.
This card will do nothing. I'm very happy about it. Shout outs to Darth Nash. We're going to get in the lab on Jurak. I know I've been stalling because I've had no time, but Blaster is a good card, but it is fun. There's a lot of fire decks coming out that it might support. Realistically, I don't think this card will do anything. The hand effect is pretty good. Having removal is nice. It's kind of like Eldritch in a way for fire decks.
Yeah.
But it's like a heavy investment. It's a cool extender. I think there are cool ways to get to it. He does legal. But I don't know. I don't think it's going to do anything, but I think it is a great tool to have. It's like Tempest, right?
It's fine.
Yeah. if it finds a home, I think it is okay for this card to have a home.
Yeah, I agree.
Is my take.
Next, we have Mathmex Circular, newly limited.
This is... I am still trying to
Cringe.
figure out how I feel about this. So, in a universe where... okay, I won't talk about that part of it until we get later down the list. I understand this. I don't like it, but I get it. Circular is one of, like, the most silly single cards, like, ever printed. To be absolutely frank with you. It's bonkers. True. Like, send for cost is insane. Special
this
itself
reminds me a lot of specifically actually also a card. It's sitting right next to his Miscellaneousaurus.
Yeah,
limited.
Like the fact that it special summons itself generically, so it even like saw niche play as just like an engine in other decks. Like it has tops as like there's a YCS top for Crystal Beast Mathmech, right? Like what kind of sucks about this is that Mathmech was never like the deck to play. It was always like the third or fourth best deck, or even like further down the list than that. And even this format, it's maybe fourth or fifth, right? But this card is crazy. Super Factorial is crazy. I think the idea is just that. Okay, so the problem is that Circular isn't the card that makes the combo repeatable, right? It's Diameter. And you can still search Diameter for your follow-up to get Circular. I guess they just want you to see Circular less, which is probably fair. The deck still has a ton of ways to get to it. Signet Mining Small World. This is kind of cynical because I feel like this is clearly like, hey, you should buy the Fireball cards if you want to play Cyberse. Which is what I think is happening here. But I'd say I don't like it. It sucks because it means that Mathmech as like an engine is unplayable, but the card is really strong. So I do, as much as I dislike it, I do understand.
Yeah, I think that my thoughts pretty much mirror yours here. It's a broken card. It even enabled another deck that it enabled was the Mathmech Adignister deck.
Mm-hmm.
It is its own small engine. It's broken beyond all comparison. And to that end, I understand it getting limited. It kind of sucks, but I get it.
Our rest in peace, Chickies.
Yeah.
You are.
What's crazy is the Mathmech deck. It is still good. Just Mathmech as a deck, still good.
Yeah.
You still have a million ways to get to this card. Small World, all your other engine stuff. Like the deck is still good.
Yeah.
You just have to play it a little different.
You could play like I know some people will just go more in on Cyberse extenders. Some people might experiment with like the Sakitama package. Lots of different options.
Yeah. Next we have a card that is going to be a contentious debate. Cyframe Gear Gamma.
This is the second worst change on this list, and it is one of this. I'm not trying to exaggerate. I'm not trying to clickbait. This is one of, in my opinion, the worst decisions that has been made on a ban list in recent memory.
I do not think that's the second worst decision on this ban list. I think that it is very far from it.
Nope. I think it's the second worst choice on this list.
I almost like this.
Okay. Well, you're wrong, but I think a lot of people agree with you. I heavily disagree with this. I think this is fine in a world where they also ban Dimension Shifter, but this is just like a very surface level. Droll is a weird discussion.
And Artifact Lantia.
Lantia's fine. Droll is probably something else you could put next to Shifter as a thing, right? So the thing is, there's other available counterplay to Droll. Crossout exists. Instant Fusion into Millenniumize Restrict exists. So that's 5 ways you can beat Droll if you really need to. It's not ideal, and Gamma's obviously better. I understand that we're hitting this because we don't want players to go Gamma, Axel into Baron. Ban Baron. Ban Axel. Ban Gamma is just an unreasonable reaction to that situation that you've created. Gamma is a necessary tool to check a lot of decks, and it's a necessary tool to check Shifter. Gamma, when you're going first, resolving it in an ideal situation, good players will wait until you commit to a monster. Limiting Gamma rewards bad players for being bad. The other thing, is Gamma is also such a unique resource tool. I think it means people are careful. The Gamma was one of the few reliable counters to a Rise Heart that was something you could also reliably play into other decks. That situation is different now that Diablosis is banned. I don't know. I just think this change is awful. Like, there is literally no counterplay to Dimension Shifter if you are going second now. There is no counterplay to Shifter. And that is extremely dangerous, especially in a format with this list where Kashtira is still probably the best deck, and a lot of other decks that can come up will play Shifter. They're basically saying, we want Shifter to resolve, screw you. And I think that's ridiculous. Gamma should...
I still think...
This is a terrible change.
This is at worst... This is at most the fourth worst change on this list.
No, I think this is like... I think after a few months, people will realize how bad of a mistake this was. I'm willing
serious, to be convinced that this is a bad mistake.
I'm serious line in the sand. Like, I think this is absolutely ridiculous.
I also think that people had the same opinion when Called by the Grave went to 1. And Called by the Grave is also a ridiculous card that deserves to either be banned or at 3, and there's not really an in-between to me. I think Call by at 1 is also very dangerous, but specifically with Gamma, I think that with Gamma at 1, Gamma is one of the singularly most powerful cards in Yu-Gi-Oh! And while, yes, it is a lot more commandingly skillful of a card than Call by the Grave is, I do think that due to Gamma's incredibly high impact when it resolves, I do think that it is worthy of a spot on the limit list. But it's like you said when I said I wanted Red Reboot off. Just because there are other things that it needs to check does not mean that it is not also a problem.
Yeah, that's that's actually a fair point to make. I just think
I understand you saying that it shouldn't be limited right here. Just like I don't think Red Reboot should be banned. But the reason is not because it's not an imminently powerful card. The reason is because there's all these other cards that it needs to check, right? So I think that I don't think it's really fair of me to have this argument that I want Reboot back, but I also like having Gamma limited. Just like it's not really necessarily fair for you to have the argument of, I want Reboot should say banned, but I want Gamma to come back to 3. Like, it's the same general principle.
So I will say
we're both wrong.
my caveat there is that Reboot has no counterplay and is like unrespondable. So except by counter traps, right? I think Gamma has a lot of counterplay exists for Gamma. I think you make a great point. I think that's an absolutely fair point where it's like Gamma probably should be limited and we should be consistent about that. Like I said at the beginning of my long ramble, I think it's an unbelievably powerful card. I think strong cards are allowed to exist, and I think Gamma is a very skillful, strong card to have in a format. And 2, Gamma is necessary to check some very specific things in the format. And until those cards are banned, I don't think we can get rid of Gamma. That's my view.
Gamma is a card that you can respond to, like, say, with your own Gamma, right? You can also respond to Red Reboot with your own Red Reboot or a Solemn Judgment if you went first. These are also things you can do, right? So, like, if I go first and I set D Barrier and my opponent has Red Reboot, I can have Solemn Judgment, right?
Yeah. The other
there is counterplay there.
No, that's not where I'm getting at though. Like, I think Gamma as a hand trap, and solely as a hand trap and not as a tool for protection, probably is too strong as a hand trap. I think I agree with you. There's tons of counterplay to Gamma in wait until there's a body on the board, right? So most of the time it's very easy to engineer that scenario. Like, I think a lot of people firing Droll on super heavy. Smart players are waiting until there's a body. And
for sure,
they should
even
be doing
if it's
that.
less than optimal.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Right.
Right.
So anyway, that's we could talk about this for hours, but anyway, regardless of what you think about this change, I think there are valid arguments on both sides. However, I think the people who think it should be limited right now are just horribly wrong. But I will say
I think the same thing about Red Reboot. So
yeah, exactly. It is a impactful change. It is something that will change how we build and it will change how we play. So I think if that's the goal, I guess. I'm
I think it's
interested to
very
see.
funny that we're both standing with one foot on either side of
Oh,
the aisle.
It's interesting. I think we're on the same wavelength on most things, but there are a few things where we're like, no.
Yeah, it's funny because I would rather Gamma be at 3 right now, right? But I also acknowledge that if we're gonna say that, well, Red Reboot's too powerful and it should be banned,
Yeah.
but
It's
it's
kind of
just because, yeah.
It's kind of how I feel about circular too. It's like I kind of don't like it, but also if we're deciding like the power level, like
We have more of those coming. So
yeah.
let's move on because we're like falling real behind here. We still have to talk about Philly. So
Yeah, that's true. Okay.
of course, there's a lot to break down here.
Mm-hmm.
Next, we have Denglong, first of the Yang Zing. It was forbidden. It is now at 1. Tell me your thoughts here.
I'm happy as a dinosaur player. I don't know if I'm happy as a Yu-Gi-Oh player. I think it's a bit scary to have generic. And this card is unbelievably strong.
Yes, it cannot be understated how strong this card is.
I think it's probably okay. Monadium,
Or cannot be overstated.
yeah. Monadium doesn't have like a good way to get to this. Like I think if
Tortle does.
yeah, I think if Monadium figures out a way to do like the double counter trap thing post side, we're all screwed. But Dino will be happy to have this. Sword Soul will be very happy to have this. I'm curious to see what it does. I think hopefully if it's too good, they'll make like Fairy Tail Snow and be like, okay, bye, we tried. I'm cool with this.
I think that this is one of those cards. Yeah, I think this is one of those cards that is definitely worth peeling off. I think I think that this was an eminently powerful card 5 years ago, 6 years ago. And while it is now still very powerful, it's not nearly to the level that it was 5 or 6 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
I think there's still a lot of like hesitancy because of how powerful it was, but I don't think it's nearly as powerful now. And I think that it's worth bringing off and seeing how Sword Soul does. Next, we have Kashtira Arise Heart.
So dumb. This is so stupid. Like,
okay, this is one of my hits that's worse than Gamma. The counterpoint is that the mirror match is gross now. Whoever resolves Unicorn first wins.
I was going to say, that is the one saving grace to this hit, is that it makes the mirror match a living nightmare.
Yeah.
I hate when they do this. This is just like limiting Hulk. It functionally didn't change anything. There were like some niche scenarios where it mattered, like Unicorn. The problem is like they can just bring this back with Birth. It's not. This doesn't do anything. It doesn't change the power level.
I'll just say the only thing that this does is make it very interesting in the mirror match. Whoever resolves Unicorn first wins the game.
I don't understand why they were like, we're gonna ban Scarecrow, and we're gonna limit Circular. Rise Heart to 1. That's it.
And here's the other thing about it. Here's what's crazy.
Mm-hmm.
If they were gonna go this light on Kashtira, they could have just put Scarecrow to 1, because you can still rip the Scarecrow. That's still a thing you could do.
It is a weird laundry list of stuff that just doesn't make sense. It is hard to wrap my head around it, and that's what's weird for me, is that the philosophy behind what's happening here is inconsistent. Anyway.
I think it's a terrible hit. It's just terrible. It's got no business, and it just gets worse from here. Mm-hmm. Next, we have Pearly Delicious Memory, a card that has, at least with Scarecrow, you could say that it was an enabler for the deck, been out for a very long time, a couple of years. This card's been out for 3 months, and it was the best card in the 6th best deck.
This is ridiculous to me. So I understand. I kind of understand hitting the deck in a universe where you're doing all of this other stuff on the list, right? Like, regardless of what you feel about the hits that are on the list, it's kind of like, it's not the toss list, but it's kind of like if we're hitting everything, we should like go tap like the other like 5, 6, 7 decks or whatever. It was like Servant to 1 is kind of like a comparable hit, but Delicious Memory is really harsh. Like, the deck is basically only playable now as a going second deck, like straight up as like an OTK deck, or like a Turbo out of Big Zeus going second, so that the crackback can happen.
For what it's worth, I think this deck regains a lot of its playability after Duelist Nexus.
After Duelist Nexus, yes.
And that's just in time for us to wait like a month and get another ban list. And the deck can hit again.
Exactly.
Which I'm fine with. I don't like this deck at all. So.
Yeah, it's one of those like I don't like playing against it, but it's also I think if they wanted to pre-hit it, there are things they could do that were less heavy-handed. This feels like really aggressive to me.
Speaking of aggressive and heavy-handed, the next card is Natchitoches Sacred Tree, also limited.
This is so dumb. This is so stupid.
This is also up there with the worst hits on the list.
Oh, it definitely is. I still think Gamma's worse, just like but that's like a philosophical perspective thing. If we're talking just like unnecessary, this is like close to the top of the list. Like,
for sure,
this deck was not seeing play. Straight up, this format, it just was not seeing play. Like, there were like, how many tops did Runic have? 2, like, all across all of the nationals and like all of the regionals.
I'll be honest, I don't know that it was that many.
Like, it's like unfathomably low. Like, to be frank, even at like this, like we can see the results from the YCS. Like, I think in the top 64, I think there's 1 Runic deck. Like, this is just wholly unnecessary. Like, and the thing is, right? Like,
yes, there's exactly 1 Runic deck.
It's crazy. Like, I think they did this to appease Tombox. Tombox in his ban list prediction video said Sacred Tree to 1. I think they did this specifically to like let Tombox do like, see, I told you. That's speculation. I don't know anything, but this hit is
crazy.
This hit is like nonsensical. If you were gonna do anything, ban Nat Beast and then just be like, you can play the engine, but we think Nat Beast is too strong. But like,
and I would have been pissy, but fine with that because it's an understandable and reasonable thing to do.
Yeah.
This is stupid.
Yeah, this is just like it's like, I get it. It's strong to mill this card and send it a few times, but like, it's not that crazy. I don't know. This is just silly to me.
All right, so next we're on to the semi-limited list.
All right, I guess it's my turn. These might go a bit faster, but
sure.
All right. Well, there's a few that we might have to have a conversation about. So first off, Herald of Orange Light to 2.
This card, this is perfectly fine. I've had some friends that are worried about this, like, oh, this is so stupid. Drytron's too good. Listen, as long as Ava is banned, it's probably fine.
Yep.
Herald of Orange Light was at 3. The only reason it went to 1 had nothing to do with Drytron. It was 100% due to the ability to mess with the Ishizu cards, which are all now limited.
Yep.
This card can go to 2. It's fine. Let Madolche players have their time in the sun.
Yep, this card can go to 3, and especially with Gamma banned, it would be really nice. Yeah.
And also, if anybody has some ultis that they want to let go at a really good deal, let me know. I really want some ultis with this card. It's one of the most beautiful ultis ever.
I have a couple of commons. Anyway,
I have a bunch of OTS supers when I got reprinted in the OTS pack.
Yeah. Next up, I'm the guy reading this section. Come on.
I got mixed up. Sorry, I got used to it.
Yeah. We're good. Okay, so this one probably a conversation to be had here. Kashtira Unicorn to 2. What are your thoughts?
This is actually the second worst hit on this list. This is actually the second worst.
There's an argument for that, actually, yeah.
Yeah, no, and the next one is the actual worst.
Yes, we are in agreement there.
Okay. So, Kashtira Unicorn to 2 is terrible, right? Because essentially, Kashtira was and still is a 1-card combo deck. This hit to me screams that they wanted to take just shave a little bit of the consistency and just shave a little bit of the power ceiling of the deck. But here's the issue, is that in a format where you got rid of Diablosis, sure, but you leave Kashtira Unicorn at 2, you're only shaving about 10% of the consistency off of opening exactly Unicorn. But the deck still has Birth, the deck still has Theosis, the deck still has 3 Fenrir. You didn't actually do anything to this deck that is highly impactful. Yes, the Diablosis ban does make it to where their Lock 3, Lock 5, Lock 9 boards are a lot less consistent. And that's fine. And basically, the Lock 9 is like basically impossible to do now, if I'm not mistaken.
Yep.
But regardless, this is not enough. Unicorn needed to go to 1, and Fenrir needed to go to 2. A Rise Heart could have stayed at 3 or been banned. Either way, probably doesn't make a difference at that point. But regardless, you need to draw a hard line with the starters and extenders of these decks. If you want to no longer make it a 1-card combo deck like you did with Super Heavy, then you need to be a little bit more heavy-handed like you did with Super Heavy.
That is
I don't think that this is the way.
that is exactly how I feel about this. Like,
Yeah.
and this is my main gripe with the list, is that its philosophy is completely inconsistent. If we are saying that, okay, we think that the 1-card combo decks are too strong, right? And we need to ban Scarecrow to stop Super Heavy from having such a strong 1-card combo. And we need to limit Circular so that 1-card combo is seen less and it's less repeatable. Why then is the 1-card combo starter for the best deck in the format hit less hard than those 2 cards? That is nonsensical.
And not only that,
it's nonsensical.
But because you only put Unicorn to 2, it does even more to make, like, if you want to hit Diablosis to not only stop the lock 5-9 whatever lock a million, not only do you stop that, but you also stop from extra deck ripping as hard. That's fine, but now because Unicorn is still at 2, it's still very likely that you get your extra deck ripped early and often.
Yep. Like they're still, if they really want to go into set rotation, they can do that. There's terraforming. There's the 3 planets. There's still a ridiculous amount of ways to access this card.
In today's consistency, limiting to 2 doesn't matter for a piece like this. I think there are cards that I get where they limited them to 2, like Malicious, and I even understand the argument for Pot of Desires and some other upcoming cards, but this is nonsensical.
Yeah. Like, functionally, I'm gonna be real, the only functional cash hit is Diablosis banned, and if that's the only hit, it's still the best deck. Like,
yes.
And cynically,
the only thing is that the Nightmare is a nightmare.
Yeah.
The nightmare.
The mirror.
The mirror is a nightmare.
Last point on this, cynically, I think it's a money move. Like, if you look at the 1-card combo stuff that got hit, Super Heavy, some of the external pieces are expensive, but the engine is really cheap. Mathmech was a cheap deck for a long time. Even though Sigmas and Super Factorials are kind of expensive. The
engine wasn't that cheap for Super Heavy. But
they cap out at what, $10. The
3 up. Yeah, I mean it was the engine itself was like close to $100.
Yeah, but like for a high level competitive deck, that's relatively inexpensive, right?
I guess.
Like Mathmech had maybe like some external pieces that were pricey, but the core is like Circular was a super, it was cheap.
Yeah, the only thing in Mathmech that was expensive was Super Factorial was 10, Sigmas are 15, and you need 2 access code, which are like 35 each.
And what sucks is I think this is why they don't communicate, because they don't want to come out and say that. But anyway,
about the money.
That's enough of that. Let's talk about the worst hit on this list.
Yep, it is. It's true.
Every time
we're burying the lead.
Yeah, that's you're the guy reading.
No, you are.
Oh, it is me. Is it me?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, you
Okay.
see? Yeah.
You're right.
All right.
Okay, never mind. I understand now. How do you please Sonny of the Top Cut podcast, would you please let us know how you feel about Lightning Storm to 2?
This is actually the worst hit on this ban list. This is the worst hit that I've seen since Shooting Riser to 1.
Mm-hmm.
This is the worst hit that I've seen since Krishan Halki Firebrax to 1. This is the worst hit that I've seen since Pot of Desires to 2.
This is a Assault Core to 1 tier. Ridiculous, right?
This is like Chick the Yellow, which even Chick the Yellow had a justification.
Yep.
This is so outrageously off the wall bad. I cannot fathom it. Listen, I get it, right? Like it is an eminently powerful card, and your opponent opening Dark Ruler No More Lightning Storm into your Super Heavy end board is tragedy. And I get that, but this is really bad. Okay, so what? I'm just going to replace it with a copy of Regeki or a copy of Harpy's Feather Duster? Sure.
Or a copy of Evenly Matched. Like, I understand I think I would love if the game was at a power level where we didn't need a lot of these equalizers, but we do. But if you want to limit the power of the equalizers, Lightning Storm is like the 9th card on the list. This card is not even seeing, like, is barely seeing any play. Like, I guarantee if you go look at the top 64 for Philly, there's an outside chance that none of them are playing Storm.
No,
it would
that's
be
not
like
true.
it would
That's just unequivocally false.
I think I haven't seen any lists that have been playing Storm in the side. Almost all of them
I
are
was
evenly.
rocking the hell out of Lightning Storm recently because I've also been rocking Dark Ruler No More because Dark Ruler No More Lightning Storm into the super heavy board is just game.
I think a lot more people are doing evenly this format. Like I was watching Sunseed Jess's top 4 Rico profile from UK Nats, and they were explaining why evenly was better. But like again, there are tons of stronger cards than Lightning Storm to be doing this too. Putting it, and not only that, putting it to 2 does nothing. Like if you want to hit it, put it to 1 or ban it. To 2, does 2 does literally nothing. Like
10% chance of his saying it. 10% less chance.
If you were thrusting to get this, you're already playing less copies. Speaking of hits that are Konami trying to tell you to play the right ratio, how do you feel about Runic Fountain too?
So this is a lot more interesting than Lightning Storm or Unicorn, in my opinion. This actually makes a lot more sense than either of those. In that, so this is Konami saying, don't play Runic Stun. That's stupid and dumb. You should not be playing Runic Stun. You should be playing Runic as a supplementary engine in Sprite and Naturia, or which you would have played as Naturia.
Well, not anymore.
Or the upcoming Volcanic stuff, or Plunder Patrol, cool side engine, and all these other decks. Do not play it as a stun strategy. That's all this is. This is Konami saying, don't play it as a stun strategy. I actually said Runic Fountain to 2 for a while. Now, I didn't do that on my prediction list because I thought it was too insane to actually happen. But I said for a long time, Runic Fountain to 2 would make a lot of sense because it actually just doesn't really take away from it as a supplementary engine.
Yeah.
I just never thought it would actually happen.
I don't know. I think it's I think I agree with that. Like, and I think it's okay if that's like the stated intention. I think it's kind of unnecessary. Like,
agreed.
The runic stun deck just was not performing in TCG. It had its time in Master Duel, and a lot of the cards got hit there because of that. But the TCG is not Master Duel; it's a best of 3 format. I guess I think that's a pretty good argument actually, is to say that we're not playing the Sun deck. You should have to play it as like an engine in other decks. But I also think it's just really unnecessary. So I don't know.
Terrible. Yeah, it's.
All right, Sky Striker mobilize engage to 2.
Yeah, this one, believe it or not, I'm probably okay with. This is not the Sky Striker card that I fear. I think that this card to 2 is probably okay. I think that this was leaked in the policy documents. We all knew this was happening.
Yeah, in the update, they were like, second copy of Engage.
Yeah.
I really hate this. I might be biased.
I mean, I hate it. I hate it too. But
I spent a lot of time in TOS format, so maybe I'm out of touch.
Again, this is not the one that scares me.
Why is Striker allowed to have their unbelievably busted card that should be banned card at 2, but Miscellaneousaurus, its dinosaurs, unbelievably busted card that could be banned?
Because one of these things says you're not allowed to respond.
Okay. I'm literally writing a video essay titled In Defense of Miscellaneousaurus. So we can have that conversation another time. But point being is that I hate this. I think this card should have stayed banned. I think it proved to be okay at 1. 2 is just like a frustrating, unfun experience, right? Like now there's a real shot that like Striker just goes engage into engage, Kagari into engage again. That was what we were supposed to stop doing. I hate that you just get to draw 3 cards for free. I think there are decks other than Striker that probably it is okay to do that in. Striker is not one of those decks where that is okay. I think it's not going to have that crazy an impact, but it's not fun, it's stupid, and it should have stayed banned.
I mean, that's all very fair.
Anyway, shout outs to GG though. I know you're very happy about this, so I'm not going to rain on your parade. I hope you tear up the format with it so that they ban it again. Shout outs to Ryan Yu too. Dude's one of the goats.
Yeah.
Last one on the semi-limited list, Sprite Starter to 2.
This is up there with Lightning Storm, honestly. This is such a disgusting, terrible hit. I don't get why they would. It's like they're just going for the. It's just the same thing as Unicorn, essentially, right? Like, this is the least impactful hit on this entire list.
Yeah.
Actually.
It doesn't do anything. Like, Dinkham Pham posted a photo with him with 2 starter, and he's like, well, I guess I get to win Euros now. It's like, we're hitting, why, like, again, why are we hitting the new decks harder than Sprite? It doesn't make sense.
It's crazy. Sprite is probably the second best deck in the format now.
All right. So we can quickly go through.
This deck is insane. This doesn't impact. This is a card that you were searching anyway. This is not a card that you reliably wanted to see in your opening hand every game. You were already searching it. This is stupid.
Yeah, for doing this type of hit, just like Unicorn, just like Circular, it should go to 1. Like, that's...
This is a really great hit if blue went to 1.
Yeah, that's probably true. Okay.
Or Jet.
So the unlimits we can probably go through pretty quick. I don't think they're very impactful.
These are mine. These are mine. I read
Okay,
these.
all right. You read them. You read them. You read them.
All right. So newly unlimited, we have Blackwing Steam the Cloak. It was limited. It's now at 3. This is fine.
It's fine.
Right?
It's fine. I think we were worried about it because there was an outside chance that tier could abuse it, but turns out it's okay.
Next, it's bad. There's no Hulk. So next we have Gen X Ally Birdman.
So something to note about this, I think this is actually for Vanquish Soul. Those cards like being returned to the hand, and Gen X Ally Birdman is really cool as an extender that also returns stuff to the hand. I think that this card will find a home, but it's not going to be that crazy. It's not going to be very good even. I think there are decks that will probably experiment with it, but long time coming. I think it's been limited for like 11 years. Bring it off.
I would like to make the argument that this card is actually insane in Super Heavy Samurai.
Oh, as a machine extender. Actually, that's kind of nasty. Okay.
Yes. And if you use Soul Piercer to equip to one of your guys,
you can't
link it off. You can't link it off anymore. So you bounce the guy back to your hand.
And then that puts
Soul
it in
Piercer goes
grave.
to the graveyard.
And it gets destroyed too. That's kind of nasty.
Yeah.
Okay.
I might try that out. And I do have the DT one too, which is very nice. Samsara Lotus, Forbidden to 3. So we were like, boo, FTK suck. We don't want those. But also,
this FTK is bad. Like,
yeah, it is.
The plant players aren't even doing this. Like,
yeah, sure.
It takes.
I think somebody at Konami just had like 2,000 or 3,000 of these on hand, and they were like, "We could spike this card really fast."
Yeah. On one hand, I think it's cool. This is like the point that the Masochist Banlist tournament tries to make, is that a lot of these cards, while yeah they're unfun, they probably don't need to be banned. So maybe this is them just like trying it. I think it's probably okay. It's if somebody comes, and the good thing is if somebody comes up with something crazy, we could just ban it. So cool.
That is true. Spiral Quick Fix from 1 to 3.
Shoutouts to Outback YGO. He's been in the tank. There's probably like a Verna-Sylph Spiral deck that you can play. This is fine. So long as Master Plan is banned, they can have everything.
Okay, so we feel the same way about this that we feel about what was that other
Pendulum
deck?
with Electromite.
Yeah.
Yeah, where you can have everything if Electromite is banned. I totally agree.
Yeah. Next we have Lyrilisk Recital Starling from 2 to 3.
Sure. I don't even think they were playing 3 anyway.
No, well, originally
Like
when the card got
OG.
limited, they were.
Yeah, but I don't think they are now. So this is fine.
I mean, I think they would now too, just because you can use 2 of them because it's not once return, and you can use 2 of them to go into Utopic Trigger feature and then have a 3rd one for later. But
you would know better. You would know better than I would.
Yeah, the card's insane. Honestly, the card. People have been saying for a while now, like, oh, this card can go to 3. It's fine. This card's insane.
Yeah.
This card will be a problem again. Next we have Draco Face Off from 1 to 3.
I don't know why this didn't happen when Draco Slayer came out. Sure, it's strong, but it's kind of been outclassed. Yeah, like if PAX is the thing, then you can have Draco Face Off. Go for it.
And lastly, we have the most dangerous move of the entire list, Sky Striker Mecha Modules Multi-Roll from 1 to 3.
I don't really care about this. I mean, like the card
I
is.
care about this a lot more than I care about Engage. This card is insane.
I disagree with that. I. It's really good, but like seeing multiples of it is awful. It's very searchable. I don't even know how many copies of this you play. I might be horribly wrong. GG, feel free to let me know if I'm off base on this.
I remember when we were at YCS Niagara, me and Gary had this discussion, and he said, I said, man, what if you could have, what if you could have 3 multi-roll, but Engage was banned? And he said, I would love that. That would be the best.
Okay, well
I
now
said-
I'm terrified. Okay.
Right, exactly.
Actually, now I'm terrified.
He said that would be awesome. I said, really? He said, yeah. He goes, Engage is cool. Multi-roll is like one of the best cards in that deck. Multi-roll is probably better than Engage in a lot of ways in what it enables you to do and what it allows you to do. Multi-roll is, I'm not going to say it's a more powerful card than Engage, but it is certainly a lot scarier in a lot of ways in what it allows the deck to be able to do.
Yeah, really sounds like we shouldn't have brought Engage to more copies.
I mean, it really sounds like Engage to 2 would have been fine, but multi-roll, and we keep in mind we already have Kagari at 3. I think multi-roll should still be at 1. You can bring Engage to 2, that's fine, but leave multi-roll at 1.
Fair enough.
So that's it for the ban list. We'll do Philly and actual event coverage on Friday's episode. Get you prepped for the regionals. So that'll be fine, and hopefully by then we might even have some Battles of Legend Monstrous Revenge reveals.
Oh, that would be
to
fun.
discuss.
Mm-hmm.
That would be fun. I think Monstrous Revenge releases next week, right?
No, it's later than that. Wild Survivors is next week, is what you're thinking of. Monstrous Revenge
Wild Survivors is this week, isn't it?
Monstrous Revenge is later in the month, I think. It's like the 22nd or something.
Of June? Is it that late?
Yeah, I think it's later in the month.
Yeah. Well,
I'll look
I'm
it
open
up
to
while
being
you.
wrong, but
I'll look it up while you read off the names of our lovely patrons.
Yeah, absolutely. So, of course, we want to extend a huge, huge thank you to all of our wonderful patrons. So, with that said, a huge thank you to Despian Uwu Walilith. Oh,
Amazing.
I love that.
Still love it.
Kane Martin, Zyphorus, Our Canadians, Nickelback.
This is the GOAT for me right now. It's so good.
I thought that the other one was your goat, and like you said, like you would do something when we beat that other one.
See, this is okay, but this is like I wouldn't say that. Okay, this isn't better than the other one. This is just like this. I personally I'm very happy that this is here, as a Canadian.
Yeah. Earth Machine or Cards Goetia, Earth Machine best deck. Epi, has anyone actually read Toy Vendor? Hey, real question: My Place or Roars? Get it? It's a dino joke. Roars. Yeah, I like that.
Okay, you get the misc salute.
Yeah. HGH Cyber. I used to play Rogue, but then my mom got a job.
This one is really good. That's really good.
John Little, Montratron, Mountain Man, No Ban List is a Floodgate, Oatmeal Spaghetti, Owen Alvarado, Silver Hope, Unbanned number 95, Konami. Understanding and reading are two different things. Virtually Savior's World, Rogue, and Tier 2 of the polite terms for bad deck. Aaron Gardner, Asami, Ashless Chaps. Atsuyo, Simp of the Silver Castle, Blackwing Silver in the Ascendant is the best Floodgate. Box Wine, come on and get your game on. Duty Booty, Dragon Maidenless Behavior, Dragon Maid Sunseed. I'm about to Riku Glamour Tube your Costies plant nuts in your mouth. Cam, the Team Dad Rekindler, even though Sunny's helping me build math. Circular to 1. For context there, Cam is one of the teammates that was on my team that hasn't really played in a while, Team Dark Arm Dealings, and I am getting I'm getting Cam back into competitive Yu-Gi-Oh! We had completely built Matic for him, and then as I'm on my way to go play test with him for regionals, Banlist Circular 1, so that's awesome. Old Man Red, pin code 143, and slaking it up. Thank you all so much for your continued support of the podcast.
It's the June 23rd. I was one day off.
Okay. Well, I'm gonna wrap this up because my video cut out. So thank you all so much for your continued support of the podcast.
If it's just me on video here at the end, catch y'all later.
Yeah. Have a great weekend, everybody.
Take care.
Week.
Yeah.